Welcome to the show, everyone. You know, a lot of people tell me that they love my show. And the reason why they love the show is because it's just great information for everybody out there. I want to say hi to everybody there that's watching us on Facebook. So hi to everybody. Like us and follow us. We're going to share the show later on. Allergies, sinuses. We're going to be talking right now with Dr. Franklin Gerkitz. And I hope I said it right. And I want you to first, welcome to the show. I want you to tell everybody first a little bit about yourself and what you do. And let's talk about sinuses. What a great subject.
Gotcha. Yeah, my name is Frank Gerkitz. I'm an ear, nose, and throat physician in private practice in North Scottsdale. Our office is right off of Princess and the 101. And I've been here for almost 10 years now. And we focus on allergies, sinus, airway conditions. We can treat patients with any problem that can affect those airways. And oftentimes a lot of those symptoms are silent, where patients may be dealing with problems and just not even realize what's causing their problem with sleep, for example, or facial pressure. And some patients are just living with it. They feel like this is my normal, this is my baseline, not knowing that they could feel better.
Absolutely. I love your first question that you had me ask.
Sure.
It says, I've got a sinus infection and I just want an antibiotic, which 99% of us, I think even more than that, that's all, just get me my antibiotic and that's what's wrong with that?
Yeah, and you know what? We've been brought up that way, so I get it. But the problem is that now the way that we know what these antibiotics do, if the problem is really like a virus, you know, for example, so a lot of people go to the doctors or to the urgent care centers, they get that medication, they take it, and they feel better. But the problem is that they probably would have felt better without that antibiotic. So when we think about it, if we think of 19 people that go to that urgent care center and each one of those people get an antibiotic, only one is really going to get better because it's a bacterial infection. So that means the other 18 people that got that medication didn't need it.
And why is it bad for people to take antibiotics when they don't need them?
Right. And now that's the real problem, because what's happening is that we actually have good healthy bacteria that's inside our nose that actually helps us prevent infections like viruses. And when we take those antibiotics and they're not needed, we wipe those good bacteria out.
So the real reason what people should do is hold tight, call you, come in, and have you look at it, because you know, if you just go, you just said it, you might be doing yourself more harm than good, correct?
Right. Now the other thing is, you know, a lot of people, they're working, so they may go to an urgent care center after hours. So those patients, now the problem is that an urgent care center can't do what we do. They don't have the ability to look inside the nose to see that there's an infection. They may look inside the nose and say, geez, it looks like a nuclear bomb went off inside there. But the nuclear bomb going off may have come from allergies, or it may have come from just that the patients are dehydrated. They're not drinking enough water, so the mucus becomes thick and stagnant, so it looks bad. But really, it could just be the fact that the mucus is just causing a lot of irritation to the mucous membranes, and the mucous membranes send messages from the immune system to the body, and the body recognizes those almost like they're feeling like it's an infection.
So here it also says that, when I take mine, they always work.
Right.
And it says here, you say right at the top, is sort of like a trap. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the trap is that you know, we feel sick, we get an antibiotic, and then we finish taking that antibiotic, and then we feel better, right? So in what we think and what we realize is like, geez, that medication killed the bacteria. But really, if they did not take that medication, they probably would have got better on their own. So it's just the fact that the timing of the finishing the antibiotic and the resolution of a virus is coinciding at the same time.
So is this just your opinion, or is there some, you know, I don't know what I'm looking for other people that can back that up?
Right. Now, you know, going back in time, there's, when I was even little, some of my friends would take a nighttime dose of an antibiotic during the cold and flu season. I don't know if you remember that at all, but what happened was they were, maybe the year before, they had lots of tonsil infections or lots of ear infections. So then the doctors would prescribe one nighttime dose of antibiotic, and then they would sail through that cold and flu season without any infections. So we thought, wow, that's a good treatment. But what's happening is that was an inappropriate dosing of an antibiotic, and the patients didn't have it. So what's happening is they were actually feeling better because some of those antibiotics actually have anti-inflammatory properties, you know, at the same time. So that developed what's called resistance. So now that time goes forward, now the American Academy of Otolaryngology, the ear, nose, and throat doctors, our academy, recently came out with guidelines, and that was in August of 2025. And those guidelines state that now the best treatment is what we call watchful waiting. Don't go get that antibiotic
Watchful waiting. Just
Watchful
exactly what you want to hear, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. So watchful waiting just means give it some time. You know, give yourself 7 to 10 days. Take some Motrin. Take some. You drink lots of fluids. The chicken noodle soup, right? The stuff that we grew up with.
Chicken soup.
Chicken noodle soup, right? So and what'll happen is you'll feel better. Now, if that 7 to 10 days go by and you're not feeling better, well, then that's the time to say, okay, I've been through the watchful waiting time period. Or during that window, I'm also getting sicker and sicker. Those are reasons we do need antibiotics. Don't get me wrong. I'm not on a platform here to say
It's starting to
antibiotics
get
are bad.
green. You need to go call them, right?
And the mucus starts to change colors, right? That's one indication. Fever, and again, just like the fatigue and the lethargy, and you just feel like blah. You don't want to go to school. You can't go to work. Or you go to work, and that's called presenteeism. So they're at work, but they're just not their full self. They're just not able to do their job effectively.
So let me give out your information because you are Princess and the 101 in North Scottsdale. The number to call is 480-525-8999. The best thing to do is go up on, you have great information on your website. So you can go there, and he has all sorts of information about sinuses and what to look for and all of that, and his website is SINUS and Allergy Wellness Center.com. So let's keep on going with these sinuses here. But if I shouldn't grab an antibiotic, then you said that's what we do is we're going to have to wait, and you've just said that.
Right.
Then what actually would help us in the long run? What are we going to do?
Right. So if you're having lots of infections over and over again, what we'll try to do is we'll try to see if we can figure out why. So that may be allergy testing. And once we find the allergies that you're allergic to, we're going to try to get you to avoid those things as best we can. And sometimes if patients are allergic, like the veterinarian allergic to dogs and cats, or the plumber allergic to mold and dust, they just can't avoid those things. So then we have to step up the next therapy, which may be medicines. Maybe they'll take some antihistamine medicines, maybe a steroid nasal spray. Maybe they'll do those both together at the same time to get better control. And then if that doesn't work, then finally immunotherapy. And that lets us retrain the immune system to become more tolerant to those allergens. And in doing so, we're actually taking away the irritant. Allergies inside the nose and the sinus cavities cause blockages of those narrow drainage pathways, and that's what triggers those recurring, symptoms and recurring infections.
Right, and a lot of people do suffer a lot.
Absolutely.
And I think the main thing to do is, if you are suffering, or maybe it's you or someone that you know, right, that you would tell them about this, because let me tell you something, I think most people always do the same thing over and over and over again, and it's literally the wrong thing to do.
Right.
So the doctor's in, and so we're sitting here talking a little bit about sinuses, and you could check them out on their website, which is Sinus and Allergy Wellness Center.com. Their phone number is 480-525-8999, and they're located at Princess and the 101 in North Scottsdale. Before we go to a break, what would you leave with there's a lot of people out there sneezing right now. What would you leave them with?
Sinus rinse. Do some sinus rinses. Wash that stuff out before it gets inflamed.
Again, that phone number to call them, it's 480-525-8999, Sinus and Allergy Wellness Center.com. Hang tight. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about sinuses and other things as well. Like that?
That was good.
So you see how it's a little bit, you're still fast, you're okay fast, but you see how it's a smoother ride, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sorry, I forgot. I was gonna switch the cameras. My bad.
What did you forget?
I was going to switch to cameras, but I forgot we're not going to a different.
So you're fine
Yes.
though,
Yeah.
right? It's still running?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
still running.
thanks. Okay. But
That was,
you're 15,
Oh,
now
good.
we're at a break.
and we got another 15?
Yes, right.
Awesome.
That's what I like about
Yeah,
these.
yeah.
So, we are still live on Facebook,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
So, but we're gonna talk a little bit more to Facebook land
Sure.
right here. And this is where I kinda like having a little bit of fun.
Right.
All right? So, when you talk about allergy testing, right, a lot of people, they get worried about those, right? Do you do anything different than anyone, or what do we do for those? Are they ones where they have to test everything?
Yeah, we do them on the arms,
Okay.
you know, and it's a tiny, small little scratch, and it has a little bit of allergen in there. So then basically, once it's done, we want to follow up and see what the results show.
What do they usually show?
You know, more of the common ones is dust, you know.
How do we get away from that?
Exactly, here in Arizona, you know, the haboobs, you know, and such. But it's really house dust. And house dust is a product of lots of different things. It's maybe some dust mites, it could be some dander, it could be other little fibers that are collected in that dust. And you know, as soon as we start to breathe those inside the nasal cavity, it causes reactivity. Other things would be the pets, the cats and the dogs. Now, seasonally, me or particularly, I'm very, very allergic to allergens, and especially the trees. So that's a springtime allergy trigger.
No, yeah, those
Yeah.
are all, I know.
Right. Yeah, and you know, the allergy testing, once it's done, again, just try to avoid those things if we can. So sometimes it's looking at pollen.com. Sometimes we can choose a better time to get outside and take our dogs for the walk, play pickleball. You know, those are, if we can get those times ideal and narrowed, then we can actually help them to feel better, enjoy their activities, but not be exposed to all those allergens.
You know, it's so hard to, when you say that, because, you know, a lot of people are like, well, I'm gonna have to close all my windows, you know? And unfortunately, this is where we live, and
Right.
I think I said this the last time when you were on that, they used to tell people to come to Arizona and get rid of your allergies, and it's completely the opposite.
Right, it flipped. Yeah, and you know, it actually traditionally goes back into, I think it was Tucson, I think originally, that wanted to build up their population base. So they advertised for that to try to get patients in.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
So welcome back, everyone. We're talking sinuses, and it's so interesting. We're at the break. We always talk to Facebook land, and so we get to kind of get a little bit more info. And one of the things that we were talking about is, you know, a lot of people that we have these allergies, and you said, well, you have to do a testing. You really do. And one of the things that you said, well, some people might be allergic to dust. And I say, well, how do you get away from that? And it's just so hard. But you have to do that. That's one of the first things you got to do, correct?
Right, yeah. I mean, when we see patients in, and sometimes we can get a good detailed history. A lot of times patients will look back to when they felt sick last year. When do I go to the doctor? If I go to the doctor every, you know, March, or April, it's probably because the pollen started to hit earlier on, and you know, we feel fine. So we don't need to take those Claritin and that nasal spray right at that time. And we get in that trap where we're using the medicine, or we're not using the medicine, and all of a sudden the inflammation gets worse and worse. Now all of a sudden it crosses that threshold. Now we're feeling sick, so now we reach for that medicine, but it's too late. So we really need to kind of take that medication prior to that season. So allergy testing lets us know, yes, you're allergic to tree pollen, like me, and then you need to take that medication before the season starts, so that way you can prepare yourself and prevent a lot of the inflammation that hits the airway.
So it keeps on coming back because we're not doing the right things.
Right, and you know, the other thing is if you're outside and you're hiking, and after we're done hiking, you come back home, you know, change your clothes, wash your hair, jump in the shower, and do a sinus rinse. So you can wash out all that stuff inside the nose before it has a chance to become reactive.
So it says here, and one antibiotic can't fix all of that.
Right.
Just the wrong thing to do.
Exactly, because there's so many different possibilities. You know, it could be allergies, it could be the dehydration, it could be silent reflux. So all those other things are not infections. So we just want to try to make sure that we really focus on the true reason for the problem, identify it, and then get them feeling better.
So again, they come to you and you're gonna have that consultation with them, talk to
Exactly.
them, but most often you're gonna have to do that testing.
Testing is one of the options,
What
correct.
are some of the other ones?
So for allergy testing,
Mhm.
yeah, so there's a blood test that sometimes, like for example, sometimes patients who are on certain medications, like beta blockers, that's a medication that slows the heartbeat down and it helps with blood pressure. If you're on that medication, we can't really do allergy testing because we could create reactions that we can't really control.
I gotta ask you this one, because
Sure.
I can't even believe what I'm looking at here.
Okay.
Listen to this, folks. So what about DNA-based testing?
Right. So typically, the nice thing about that is when patients are having recurring infections or a prolonged infection, and we're just getting too many antibiotics, one of the things that we can do is we can get which we call it a culture, but really a culture fails to find the true bacteria that's causing the problem at about 50% of the times. So then there's a couple of options that we can do, and one of those is genetic sequencing, which is of the bacteria that's the samples that comes from the nose. So in the office, we can get a swab, but we actually use a little scope to look inside the nose, and when we see that infection, that's when we grab that swab right from that infection. Then we send it off to a lab, and we usually use a lab called Microgen DX that does the genetic sequencing. So once that specimen is evaluated, the genetics are done, then they compare it to a database of, I think it's over tens of thousands of different bacteria possibilities. So it narrows down exactly what's causing the problem, so now we know and we can treat it.
So why is it important? I got a question that's not on your thing, but
Sure.
I know
Mhm.
this is so, I'm sure a lot of people think this. Why is it important to go to someone who specializes in allergy and sinuses like you?
Right. We have the tools, and that's not to say that, the urgent care doctors and primary care doctors aren't good doctors and they're doing bad things. It's what they're doing is you're using statistics. So, when patients have those symptoms of sinusitis, and if they look inside and they do see something that looks suspicious for an infection, they're going to know that the best antibiotics to treat those infections are what we were taught. So we all kind of have a list of different antibiotics that we go to. But when we come to us, we can take it one step farther. So we're not going to go ahead and give the patients an antibiotic right away. Once we get that testing back a week later, now we can focus that medication, and it's not even pills.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about this DNA going back there,
Mhm.
the testing there. How does that change the treatment when you do that?
Right. So instead of giving pills, right? Perfect lead-in. What we can do is we use that sinus rinse. So it's a high-flow saltwater wash that cleans out the nose. But the beauty is that we oftentimes can get a prescription off to a compound pharmacy based on the results of the genetic testing. So once we get that back, we have the patients take a capsule, they put it into the sinus rinse, shake up that rinse bottle, so while they're washing out the nose and the sinuses, the antibiotic is piggybacking on the rinse into the nose, into the sinuses, and it's working to those specific
That's a great
bacteria.
idea.
Yeah, and the rinse goes into the sink. You're not swallowing that, so we're saving the healthy bacteria in our digestive tract from being treated like we would take a pill.
Where else but on Networking Arizona would you hear this
Right.
information? And it's awesome.
Right.
Because it's completely different than I would say most people think.
Absolutely.
Wow. So you could check him out, and he's got a great website that has a ton of information there. We're talking sinuses today. I know you do other things as well, but you could check him out on the website, which is Sinus and Allergy Wellness Center.com. They're located at Princess and the 101 in North Scottsdale. You have even same-day appointments if needed.
We do.
And their phone number is 480-525-8999. Coming back over here, so I want to know what is scans and plans?
Right. So we have a sinus fast track plan. And what that means is that when patients come to see us, a lot of patients come to see us and they already have a CAT scan in hand. So that means that they've actually been seen by another ear, nose, and throat doctor or a family doctor, for example, and they've got this scan and they may have had other opinions. So they come to us and maybe they're even scheduled to have a more complex surgery done, maybe in a surgery center or in the hospital's operating room. And what that is it's more of an aggressive surgery, but we do the same thing. Now that surgery is good for patients who have nasal polyps, for example, or who have a trapped infection that we just can't get out with a little balloon procedure. But if their sinuses and their CAT scans show that they do have some sinus inflammation, but it's more on the mild side, well, instead of going through that aggressive surgery that carries with it risk, bleeding, general anesthesia has a risk in and of itself.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, and then also the recovery is longer, and narcotics. They may be on narcotic medication for a prolonged period of time. Well, the way we do this procedure with the balloon, it's a very conservative procedure. So we do it in and out of the office in an hour. Patients take a mild analgesic, like sometimes it's Tylenol, Motrin, sometimes it's something a little bit more, like hydrocodone, for example, sometimes. And then also some Valium or some diazepam, which just helps relax the patients. They come in, we topically numb up the nose, we use the balloon procedure, which gently dilates that sinus blockage. And now the beauty is that now the sinuses are ventilating better, they're aerating better, so they're working better. And the beauty is that the results of that procedure are the same as if they went through the more aggressive surgery in the operating room.
It sounds to me like you're cleaning and opening up the airwaves.
Right.
It sort of sounds.
That's exactly right.
But it's amazing.
Right.
And I think that's first of all, obviously, if you don't have to go under the knife in any way, you don't want to go under. But this sounds like a way to go first. You got to check it out, and you have to find out. Knowing this information, that's what's great. You can go up onto the website, you can see all of that is there, the balloon treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think the best thing to do is, again, to give them a call, find out what they can do to help you. And I think what I love to hear about you over and over and over again is you're really not all about just writing a script, and just putting on antibiotics.
Right.
Could be probably some of the worst things for you.
Yeah, right, exactly. We try to get to the root cause.
Right.
Now sometimes it could be, that balloon procedure, but sometimes it may be, like we said earlier, the allergies. Sometimes it's silent reflux that's causing these problems. There's so many different things. There's nerves in the back of the nose that can be overactive that could add to the problem as well.
My daughter, when she will get, a lot of times she'll get an ear, like it feels like it's her ears,
right.
And she doesn't know. And is that sometimes a symptom where they should come to you? And
Absolutely, it is, and we call that the eustachian tube dilation. So eustachian tube, that's the tube that pops if you go up and over the mountain and you fly in the airplane. And if that tube is narrowed and obstructed, we could use that same balloon procedure to gently open up those eustachian tubes, and now patients don't have problems flying, and they feel better. They don't have that nagging issue that's causing their ears to feel like they're just blocked up and just needs to pop.
Well, you need to pop sometimes. Now, the phone number to call them, it's 480-525-8999. We've been talking about sinuses, but there's a lot of different procedures and treatments that you do, and we're going to talk about them. You're going to be on more often.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to that. And the main thing is that, first of all, folks, don't go straight to the emergency room. Don't go reach for those antibiotics. Give them a call first. Their phone number is 480-525-8999. It's Sinus and Allergy Wellness Center.com.
Thank you.
So hold on tight.